Welcome everybody to Crypto Rosetta. My name is Savage. Today we're going to be having a look at Polkadot. Let's get into the charts and see what's going on. Before we jump into the lower degree counts here, we're going to be talking about some of the higher time frame ideas. Now, there is a way we can count this move down as 5 waves, and this would be looking at this move in this way. And what we'd be saying is that this is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we're looking for a fourth and a fifth. Typical target area here for this fifth wave would be this 363 to this 286. Now, we have just come into this zone, so I'm going to be keeping an eye out within this area for the potential to start to see a reversal to the upside, because if this is a 5-wave move, it would make a lot of sense here that this move is actually an A wave, and we could then be looking for a 3-wave move to the upside. Now, typically this 3-wave move would look to actually move up between this 382 and the 786, which is this 971 to this $30 area. And what I'd be keeping an eye on here is some of these levels that are aligning here. Potentially this 50% 618 area is also going to be very interesting because of the structure that we have up in this area. But the idea would be that this whole move would then form an A, B, and then we'd get another push down for a C wave. So this would be a more bearish idea. We would have a bullish phase, and then we'd continue to actually sell off at a later date. Now, within this idea here, there are a couple of ways of looking at this move. And the one way of looking at this is that this fifth wave is actually underway, and we are saying that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as a diagonal here. Wave 2, looking for this as a wave 3. And what we'd be saying internally here is that we want to see price moving towards this 1618 level here. This would give us more confidence within this move, in which case what we'd then be looking for, which would be another 3-wave move up and then another 5-wave move to the downside, which could potentially look to push us down towards this 260 to this 234 level. Now, ideally, I want to see this 1618 get hit, and invalidation of this count is actually up here at this 576. So if we do see price look to push back above this high, this would actually invalidate the idea of this playing out, and would make a lot more sense then that this move here is actually just A, B, and C. And then we're going to go over one of the options where this could actually be looking to form a bigger flat to the upside. Now, it is also possible within this idea here that we could argue that this fourth wave actually completes into this point here, in which case what we'd be looking for is a smaller 5-wave structure to the downside to complete. Once again, within this idea, we have actually come down here, and we do have a potential count here that could be completed as a 5-wave move. Now, we're not going to have any kind of indication of this until we start to break primarily above this fourth wave, which is sitting here at this 431, and then finally moving back above this 786 level here of this 516. If we fail to break back above this 516, we need to be very careful of the idea of seeing a 3-wave move up here and then seeing this move continue down, where this actually becomes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we would be looking at that potential for some extension. Now, if we do see that extension play out here, I'm going to be on the lookout for the potential that this is actually then 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we're going to be looking for a bigger third, fourth, and a fifth, and then an additional fourth and a fifth. Now, if we are looking, however, to complete into this point, like I said, we could be looking for that higher move to start to play out. Some other ideas here that we need to just be aware of here, and this is looking for the potential of extension more locally. If we do start to see price breaking down past this 308 level, then the probability is that we are starting to extend it. Now, if we do form something like that, we could have this as another 1, 2 here even. So this is why it's going to be very important to break back above this 310 level and actually see price consolidating above this level. If we just see price bounce back up here and then reject down, then the likelihood is that within this structure we're extending out. So we don't want that to happen really. If we were looking for this to turn around from this point, what I'd like to see is this low hold, and then to start to see price actually move up here and taking out some of these key levels. Now, the other way, if we come back out here, that we could look at this move. Now, this would make more sense if we are looking at this as an A, a B, and then we're looking for a C wave up. And what this would be basically saying is that we have a bigger trending move like this, where this whole move is an A wave. We're looking at this as a B wave and a C wave. Now, the problem is we cannot count this as a 5-wave move for a B wave, so we'd have to look at the subdivisions slightly different here. Now, within this idea, we have actually come down into the 786 to this 854 level, and we could be looking for that potential of a bounce up. 1-to-1 off of this lower level here of this 854 would be the 6659. Off of where we are would be 7443. So need to just monitor this zone. If we are looking at this as a corrective move down, where this is actually a bigger corrective structure like this, what we could have is that this move is ABC for W. We have an X wave here, and then we are looking for our Y wave. Now our Y wave typical target here, if we are looking at this as our top of our X wave here at this 809, would be between this 261 and this 109. Now the minimum requirement would be this 0.618. I'd like to see this actually get hit if we are looking at this move continuing down here. If we are going to see this, however, form something like a flat correction or a W, an X, and a Y here, we could first see price look to push up between this 683 and this 1007 level. So going to be keeping an eye on this. If we do start to see some 5-wave structure lower down here, this could actually start to be the first part of a bigger move up here, where this whole move either becomes A, B, and C, or alternatively, we could see a 3-wave move, in which case we'd be looking for potentially coming back up into this 683 level as a potential target just in 3 waves, and that would then align with this just being a corrective structure in the middle here. Now the danger with only getting a 3-wave move up here or a 5-wave move which looks to reverse and take this low is that would then mean that potentially we're just shifting our X over here. So we'd need to see this actually start to break up more impulsively here if we are going to say that we are looking to complete, because we haven't really hit this 0.618. So the likelihood is then that unless we continue to break down and hit this level, that we are looking for either a move up here and then this move to the downside, or alternatively, like I said, we're going to be looking to just break down directly. Now, the problem that we have here within this is that if we come in here and have a look at this move over here, what we can see is that we actually have completed a B, and a C pattern. Now, the one-to-one of this is actually here towards this 346. It is possible that there could be, like I said previously, some further extension within this. But if we are looking at this as a simple 5-wave move like this, where this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we can see here that we have actually come down into the typical target area for this, which is this 357 to this 350 area. So because we have done that, and because this is potentially done enough to become an ABC pattern, we need to just watch this low. And even if we do push down towards this 346, I'm still going to be looking out for that potential to see some kind of a reversal to the upside. Now, within that idea of this bouncing up, we'd need, like I said, we'd need to see either a bigger 3-wave move up or a 5-wave structure starting to develop, where this would then become our B wave. And then we'd be looking for that bounce in that C or that Y wave. If, however, the Y wave is actually starting to play out deeper here, what we could find is that this whole move completes as A, B, and C. And then we look to actually get a 3-wave move to the upside, where we could only bounce up towards this 50% to the 786, which would be this 530 to the 666. Now, this would be an interesting area if we do see something like this play out, because we do have this bigger channel over here, which is aligning with this idea of coming back up into this zone. This would also align with coming and swing failing potentially these highs over here. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this. If we do start to develop some impulsive structure here, we could get something like a zigzag, which would look to push us up here. Or we could see something more drawn out playing out here, where we see something like a slower grind, which would then tie into the idea of this move becoming a W, an X, and a Y. So we'll have to keep an eye on this. At the moment, you know, we need to just respect these highs that we've got. If we do continue to fail to break above those and only get 3-wave structure, the likelihood is that we're going to see that continuation to the downside, looking to carry on. So what I want to see here is if this 5-wave move on the lower degree here is actually completed, I want to see whether we continue to find support in this area and we start to see a turnaround. But what we need to be very careful of is until we start breaking above some of these more local highs here, we could have the situation where this becomes 1, 2, we get 1, 2, and then we start to break down 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, and then that would align then with the fact that we've got this as a 5-wave structure, and then we would have an additional 4th and a 5th to come at a later point here. So this is why we need to just be a little bit patient with this and see how we react. We have come into the typical zone that we would expect a reaction. Now we need to see what happens. If we start to form a 5-wave move up here, and we look to find support again above this low, having a 3-wave structure back to the downside, then we can start talking more about that idea of a bigger push to the upside. But until we do, we need to just be very respectful of these highs here and that more bearish case where we could look to break down. Having a look at the daily CPR lines here, what we can see is that we've actually started to print lower CPR lines. Now, This is typically a bearish scenario, but we need to see whether price actually validates this. Now, if we do look to move back up here, I'm going to be keeping an eye on this area here of this 365 to this 367 as a potential rejection zone. If we either fail to reach this level or we move up here and reject, then targets for today would then become 361, 357, 352, and this lower level here of the 347. If, however, we continue to break down through these levels, we don't have to stop at these zones. These are just potential areas that we could be looking for reactions. If we move back above these central lines here, targets for today would be 370, 376, 380, and this area here of this 385. Now, this is an interesting zone. Obviously, we do have this a little bit of an imbalance here with this wick, and this would look to actually potentially move up into that zone. And we do have the central line here of this channel, so I would be paying a lot of attention towards this area to see if we get a reaction to the downside. Now, if we come over here and have a look at the weekly pivots, what we can see is that we are currently underneath our central lines. We have also had an interaction here with our S1 line. So if we do look to continue down this week, other targets that we have is towards this level here of this 339 and this 316. If, however, we start to see a reaction to the upside here, going to be paying attention between this 377 and this 383 as potential rejection within this zone. If we look for something like a back test of this, and then we look for that continuation down. So that would align with that idea of this starting to extend out here. So we need to pay attention to these levels. If, however, we see price climb back above this 382, this opens up the potential to test some of these higher zones, 398, 421, and this 339 as potential upside targets. If we come over here and have a look at these monthly pivots, what we can see is that we had very tightly spread monthly pivots, and we have a lot of volatility after this point. Now, we are currently sitting below our S2 line here at this 369. If we do continue to reject down, I will be keeping an eye on this 347 as a potential area that we could get a reaction. And then depending on how big that reaction is, that could still align with the idea of us breaking down deeper. If, however, we start to see price pushing back up here and we start to reclaim and hold this 369 area, then I will be looking out for the potential to retest this high of this 389. Other targets to the upside for this month would be this 412 to this 410 if we do look to overcome this S1 line. And then if we do look to push up higher than that, 431, 454, and this 474 all become upside targets if we manage to reclaim these central lines. Okay, so I'm going to leave the video there. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please smash the like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, turn on those bell notifications so you never miss a video. Leave us some feedback down below, and also in the description you will find a link to the Discord. Come check it out, it is free to join. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care.